Okay, everybody, welcome back to yet another video class. Last time I introduced what will be the next essay. Before I start on talking about that at all, I want to remind everyone that by the time you're watching this, all of your revisions are due. Remember, they're due on the 10th for Tuesday, Thursday, and the 11th for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I need your revisions. Some of you, I've got quite a few so far. Remember, you're not required to do a revision. If you're happy with the grade that you have, then you don't have to do a revision. You're perfectly fine. And I do want to just reiterate that for essays, I give A's and A minuses. I don't give A pluses. If you get an A, you have the highest score possible. However, I do give B pluses, B's, and B minuses, and C plus, C minus, and so on and so forth. But A, it's either an A minus or an A. There is no A plus. So if you got an A, you have the highest point value that you can get. You have the max. So that's how that works. Now, with that being said, I did briefly introduce SA2 last time. And I made some other announcements about our time frame. If you're not clear on those, watch the video. Go back and check it out. I'm also posting information about schedule and whatnot is also on D2L. So between the videos and D2L, y'all should have everything you need. But if you need clarification, you can text me, call me, or email me. If it's just a specific thing, when is this due or how, email me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If it requires a conversation, call me. If it's super simple, very short, send me a text. So you'll have multiple ways to communicate with me. Now, I am not assigning SA2 today. I will be assigning it Monday for the Monday, Wednesday, Friday sections, and Tuesday for the Tuesday, Thursday section. So I will be officially assigning them the essays, the next essay, and I will have the assignment sheets up on D2L. And next week's first video, I will go over the assignment sheet in detail so y'all know exactly where you're going to be. So let's go ahead and move on and expand a little bit. So I did have to cut one essay out, and I know you guys are absolutely destroyed by that. You were just hoping that you were going to do 5 essays this semester. Well, I'm sorry, you're only going to be doing 4. You have my sincere apologies that I did remove that. Oh, and by the way, I'm not wearing my hat tonight. I thought, for those of you who didn't know, I actually do have hair. It's kind of brownish gray, more gray than brown. But I just forgot to put my hat on, so I don't have it on. So let's expand a little bit on SA2. I've got my little Word document open over here. I got rid of analysis as a standalone essay, and I've combined it into your next essay, which is going to be an analysis evaluation. Now, whatever order you want to put them in, because you're doing both, okay? You can analyze without evaluating, but you cannot evaluate without analyzing, okay? So I did it in this order, analysis/evaluation. So you are going to compose an evaluation that is going to be primarily based on analysis. And we are not talking about scientific analysis where I'm expecting you all to conduct experiments and come up with irrefutable proof. This is opinion-based. That doesn't mean it's all your opinion, but it means that the overall, your thesis is your opinion. It's what you think. And you're going to provide your own evidence and examples and support to prove that. Whereas, if this were a scientific analysis, you would have to have demonstrable proof that if you do A, B, and C, then D occurs. If you reproduce A, B, and C again, D also occurs. If you reproduce A, B, and C 7,000 times, D occurs every time. I'm not talking about that kind of scientific analysis and evaluation. This is primarily just your opinion. Your supported and well-informed opinion. I will go ahead and add that to it. So, as I said last time, I described analysis and what it basically is. You're taking something, a whole, you're breaking it down into individual components to the level that you feel is necessary. I'm not talking about going down to subatomic level or anything like that. Just you're breaking something down into individual components, and you're evaluating how each of those components contributes to the greater whole, to the finished product, if you will. And I mean, literally, and I'm using that word in the true sense. Not, you know how people say I literally, and they have no idea what the word means. No, I'm not. I'm literally anything that exists can be analyzed. Okay, so, and for the most part, if it can be analyzed, it can also be evaluated. So as far as your topic choices, they are extremely wide open. I am going to go, excuse me, over an example in this video, and I say tonight because I usually film these at night. Tonight, I'm going to use a movie, or if I want to sound sophisticated, a film. I will be evaluating a film, but a movie, whatever. Same thing, right? You know, tomato, tomato. You all know that. So when we evaluate we are going to make a judgment. In other words, the judgment will be, as far as for the parts of the essay go, the judgment is going to be your conclusion. Now, in order to reach that conclusion or judgment, you're going to have to set standards. And these are what we call criteria. Now, criteria is plural. Okay, so criteria is a set of standards that you use to evaluate. In other words, you have a set of standards that you're going to be using to hold whatever it is you're evaluating. You're going to hold it to those standards and see how it measures up. It's either going to score really high in a certain department or low, somewhere in the middle. That's how you're going to form your conclusion, which is going to be your overall judgment. We do that through analyzing. We apply the criteria to where it fits, and then we analyze how well it performs or how well it fits within that particular standard. Now, the singular is criterion. That is a single standard or point of reference that we are using with which to judge something. Now, those of you who are into movies or films, however you want to say it, know that there's a famous series of movies that are called the Criterion Collection. And within this Criterion Collection, the goal of it, why they call it Criterion, is because they're picking what they think are the singular best examples of a certain type of film, and they give it a Criterion release, or that it's exemplary, that all other films of this particular style or this particular time period, this particular genre, this is something that they will all be measured against. So, you know, as far as just like great dramas or something, they might have like Citizen Kane they have a Citizen Kane criterion, but they also do a lot of, you know, foreign movies and things. So a criterion is just a single standard, and that's what you're using to make your judgment. Now, what you have to keep in mind is that your criteria must be fair. It has to be fair. You can't hold something to a standard that it was never meant to meet. And, like I said, you can't um, hold, let's say, you can't expect a $50 watch to be the same quality and have the same craftsmanship and the same materials as a $50,000 watch. And yes, they do have $50,000 watches out there, and far, far, far north of that. So that would be an unfair. I'm being nice. That would be an unfair um, set of criteria to compare the $50 watch to the $50,000 watch. It's just they're both watches. They both have a basic function of telling time, but that's where the similarities stop. That's where they end. Everything else is completely different. One's way up here, and one is way down towards the basement. So the criteria must be fair. You can't hold something up to a standard that it was never intended to meet. Now, if something goes above and beyond what it was actually intended to be to made for or produced for, then that's just a bonus. That should make it score even higher, but that should not be the low bar. So your criteria has to be fair, and it also has to be applicable. You can't hold something to a standard that it was never that it was never intended to even have, much less a degree of it. Like let's say if I'm doing an evaluation of my stupid phone, my cell phone here. If I say that this is a bad phone because it can't fly, then that's ridiculous. That's just a dumb, it's a stupid comparison. This phone is not an object that was ever intended to fly. Now, if I get mad enough at it, I can make it fly for a very brief period of time, depending on how far I can throw it. But this is not an aircraft, so I could not hold a cell phone to, well, it really can't reach a certain altitude. That's ridiculous. So, and I'm being ridiculous to illustrate the point, but you understand that the criteria has to be fair, okay? So I'm going to go over kind of just an off-the-cuff example here to show you how I would analyze and evaluate. Okay, so you all know that I'm a huge horror movie fan. I've already made that probably more known than any of y'all care. But I decided to choose an older horror movie to do this as an example because I'm pretty sure, and you can't do your essay on this, okay? I'm putting this one's off limits, this specific one, but I picked one that I was almost, remember, I'm qualifying it. I'm not saying absolutely, but I'm almost 100% sure that none of you would have ever chosen. So here's a little screenshot. I'm going to be doing a real quick rundown, kind of analysis slash evaluation of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Now, this is the original. This is the 1985 version that I'm talking about. Okay, and this, of course, is the poster, or one of the posters. There's many different posters, but this is one of the posters for one of the foreign release DVDs. I think this was probably a British DVD cover. But anyway, that's what I'll be doing. Okay, so I will go ahead and put this back down here. Now, first of all, so Day of the Dead is a horror film. Okay, so that's going to be the base that I'm working from, is that this is a horror film. And it's pretty much a pure horror film. Okay, so it's not a horror comedy. It's not like Shaun of the Dead or any of that stuff. It's a serious horror movie, and also it is of a particular genre that George Romero is renowned for. It is a zombie film. Okay, so my base is that I'm working in the genre, and by the way, this is genre. That just means what type it is, what category. And I do have a very close friend who says genre, and it drives me nuts. Oh yeah, I don't like movies that are of that genre. And I'm like, don't correct him, don't. And this is, I've known this guy for 30 years, easy, probably 33, 34 years. I'm nice about stuff like that. So anyway, so the basic genre is that it's a horror film. More specifically, it's a zombie movie, zombie film. Um, so that's my base. That's what I'm working from. So I can't say that this is a horrible movie because there's no spaceships and laser battles, because it's has nothing to do with that. It takes place in the 1980s in the United States on planet Earth. Okay, there's no, other than the dead reanimating, it's was no different than 1985 was in the United States. There's no spaceships, there's no laser cannons, laser guns, no alien creatures, Wookiees or anything. There's none of that. It's just humans, zombies, and the same level of technology that we had in 1985. That goes with medicine and everything. Okay, so that's my base. That's what I'm working with. All right, now, criteria. I did say earlier that they are a set of standards. Now, they are a set of standards, but there's not universal criteria. So it's the set of standards that you're the author. You find most important for what it is that you're analyzing and evaluating. So it's how much value you put on each one. And you can, I'm not asking you to come up with like a mathematical formula, but you can put heavier weights on certain things. Like in a movie, if what's most important to you is acting above all else, the acting is what's most important, then that's going to affect your overall judgment, right? Then you say, yeah, the story wasn't, there really wasn't much of a story. The story wasn't that great, a lot of plot holes and stuff, but the performances were amazing. The acting was outstanding. Well, you're going to be more likely to give that movie a better grade than someone whose story is what's most important. So if they're willing to forgive some so-so, not so great acting for a great story, they're going to give it a higher score based on the story. And we can, 2 thumbs up and all that stuff, however you want to do it, stars, whatever. But these are the standards that you find most important. It doesn't matter what other people find more important, but they do have to be fair. Okay, so, or realistic. So it's what you find most important. So I'm going to go over what I think is most important. Okay, so when I'm doing and this doesn't apply to all movies because the criteria that I'm about to list won't apply to all movies. But so I'm going to put them in. I'm going to put them in order of importance for me for this type of movie. This isn't for every movie that I watch. This is for this type of film. Now, here's how I do not want this. Okay, this is how I structure, and I'm just going to use the five paragraph format again for examples, but y'all can have more than 5 paragraphs. I wouldn't go less than that, but you can go more if you feel the need to. I even actually advise some of you to, hey, make this a new paragraph. You don't have to stick to the 5. This should be its own paragraph because you were transitioning to a new subtopic. So I'm just using the 5 paragraphs for illustration purposes. So we've got a zombie film, okay? So, and I put least important first, and I finish with what I think is strongest, because I personally believe that people tend to remember what they read or see last more than what they read or see first. Tend to. I don't say always, They tend to. So I try to finish with my strongest points when I'm writing an essay, because those are the ones that are going to be the freshest in someone's mind. And if my weak point is at the very beginning, I've got it over, it's out of the way, I can forget about it and move on to the stronger stuff. You know, like I'd rather finish strong than start strong and finish weak. That's just my opinion. So, okay, first of all, now this is a horror movie. So again, I use completely different standards for horror movies. So I'll just start off with the acting, okay? Now for my second, and again, these are generic, but I'm gonna give specific examples. So I'll start off with the acting. Then after the acting, I'll go ahead and talk about the story. Is it good? Is it bad? Anything in between? What are some of the highs? What are some of the lows? And in all of these paragraphs, I'm going to be giving specific examples from the movie. Okay, so I'm going to have to know certain things. For instance, with the actors, I'll have to know their names and who they play, what their character's name is. And of course, you can just use IMDb or whatever, and the internet in general, to find that. So my third category, and this is for me personally most important in a zombie horror movie, the special effects slash gore. That's to me is all of these together. If they're all good, then you got a great zombie slash horror film. All right, so those are my three criteria. Now I would do this is the order right here in which I would do the essay. I'd have my intro and my thesis, and then I would start off with the acting, because that's least important to me. Notice I said least important. I didn't say it was not important. I said it was least important when compared to the overall story, and finally to the special effects and the red stuff, the blood, the gore, all that stuff. So least important does not mean that it's not important. If it's not important to you, I wouldn't put it as I wouldn't set it as part of my criteria, because it's not important. So why would I want to waste time discussing it? So that's how I would do it. Okay, so I'd start off with the acting, and I would give specific examples. Like I would say that the guy, I'm not going to really type all this in, but the actor named Joseph Pilato plays a character in the movie called Rhodes, and he does a really, really good job. He's the evil military guy that tries to undermine all the other survivors and whatnot. He's a standout. So is the actress who plays Lori Kendall, I believe is her name, but she plays Sarah, who's one of the outsiders who stumbles into this secret underground military facility. She's also fantastic in the movie. And finally, there's a character named Bub, who's a zombie in the movie. He is a zombie, but he has like remnants of his past life. His brain is not he has not 100%, he's an anomaly. Because there's a doctor at this facility who's also trying to figure out what's causing the zombies, and also what the overall effects are, and if they can reverse it, but doing medical experiments. And this particular zombie that they've just named Bub has some tiny shred of his past life that's still present in his brain. He can't talk, these aren't intelligent zombies by any means, but he makes movements, he salutes, which means that, well, he must have been in the military at some point, and he recognizes certain things and gets, like they show him a picture of a dog or something, a happy little puppy, and he gets kind of happy. So he has some shred of intelligence left. So he's a very important character, and the man who plays him, I think, does a great job, because, again, he's playing essentially a zombie that has a little tiny bit of not just motor function, but also intellect, of intelligent function. So I would probably focus on those three. Those would be my three examples, because it has a really big cast. But I think that the acting in this for this type of film is really high level. And I'm not comparing it to Oscar winners. I'm not comparing it to On the Waterfront, or so. I'm comparing it to other horror films of this time period. The acting is way above the average horror film for this time. Um, so I would use those three as my specific examples. Now the stories, there's not a whole lot to it. It's about the same as every other zombie movie. Something happened, probably a government experiment gone wrong, and the dead come back to life and they want to eat the people that are alive. Wow, nothing groundbreaking there. Although George Romero did direct Night of the Living Dead, which was one of the first mainstream zombie. It wasn't the first, but it started everything that we have going today, all the way up to today in 2020, is pretty much a direct result of George Romero and Night of the Living Dead. This was the third one. He made Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and then this was the third in the series, Day of the Dead. So you have even that succession. Night, what comes after night? Dawn, and then after dawn, day. Okay, so he's doing the whole cycle, which is something I would also point out in my essay. All right, so those are my three uh, categories. My final one is the special effects and the gore. You know, how realistic are the zombies? How realistic is it when they start, eating people and all that? It's top notch. It is what everything else is compared to. And the two main artists, the main special effects artist is a guy named Tom Savini. Tom Savini is an absolute legend in the horror special effects market. I would mention this in my essay. He did Friday the 13th, the originals. I'm not talking about the remakes. He did the original Friday the 13th, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 4, which even compared to the modern ones are still the best, particularly Part 4 as far as the special effects go. He did um, Maniac, which is a classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. He's done so many classic movies, but his protege, who also worked on this film, Dawn of the Dead, is a guy named Greg Nicotero. Now, Greg Nicotero is, for practical effects, is the king in 2020. Nobody can touch him. You guys doubt me? Look his name up on IMDb. Greg Nicotero, K&B Effects. He did The Walking Dead, the entire series. Um, he did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood most recently. Hostel, he did the Hostel films. Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, the Hills Have Eyes remakes. I mean, just on and on and on. He is the king of current practical effects, and that's pretty hard to argue against. So between him and Tom Savini, that would be my evidence that the special effects, the practical effects, there was no CGI when in this film, not one shred of it. So as far as practical effects go, this film is a 10 out of 10 in my book. Um, and you've got two of the most legendary practical effects artists in the history of film doing this. So based on that criterion, singular, the special effects would be the highest scoring aspect of the film in my evaluation. So and through analysis, I would give specific scenes. I would talk about in the acting. I say, for instance, when blah, 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 you can clearly see the moral dilemma that Sarah is going through when she has to decide between I'm analyzing that scene as an illustration of the quality of the acting. Now, you can also use compare and contrast, where you use something else that's similar or in the same category to compare what you're evaluating and analyzing to that to see how well it holds up. For instance, this film that I've been talking about, Day of the Dead, in 2007, no, it wasn't released. In 2008, there was a remake of Day of the Dead. And if you were comparing and contrasting, you compare the special effects, the story, the acting. but I'll be very concise with my comparison. The 2008 film is trash. It is absolute garbage. It does not even deserve to own the title Day of the Dead. Um, Somebody must have just bought the rights to it off of George Romero, gave him a lot of money, and he said, "Hey, I could use the money and go for it." But it is absolutely terrible. So I wouldn't, if I were writing this essay, I wouldn't even bother with the comparison in this particular essay because it's not worth it. There is no comparison. But if you were doing an analysis evaluation of something like a cell phone or something like that, you could compare like the latest Android top of the line to the latest um, iPhone top of the line. Say, well, this is what the Android can do. This is what the iPhone can do. And I'm not a phone person, so I don't know much about them. But and based on that compare and contrast, you would use like, what are the features, what's the battery life, what's the screen size, what's the resolution. You could go through all that and use compare and contrast, and then based on that you could make your final judgment based on when comparing, and that would be your criteria. When comparing the iPhone whatever it is now, X57 whatever, and the new Samsung 4000 Galaxy, when it comes to battery life, screen size, and apps, those would be your criteria. The iPhone is clearly better, which I honestly don't know. I'm just giving you all an example. So that's basically what you're going to be doing with this essay. And again, I will be assigning it the first draft next week. But you know what it is, so there's no rules or laws that say y'all can't get started now. But I will be, going over some of this in more detail in the next video. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. And remember, get your revisions to me tomorrow and Friday, Thursday and Friday. I need them if you're going to do them. So anyway, that's it for me. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.